Stonehenge is basically history's most elaborate do not touch exhibit. People fly in from around the world just to stare at some very old, very heavy rocks, and none of them are allowed to poke them with a stick. Among these stones is one that doesn't get nearly enough love. The heel stone. It's not in the main circle, it doesn't have fancy lintels, it just stands there, alone, slightly tilted, looking like the world's oldest traffic cone, and yet, once a year, as the midsummer sun rises, this humble monolith steals the show. For thousands of years it's marked a sacred moment, light slicing across the horizon like a Stone Age laser pointer. So what exactly is the heel stone? Who put it there? And why is it leaning like it's been day drinking since the Bronze Age? Let's find out. Picture Britain around 2500 BCE. No roads, no tea, just a lot of mud, mammoths in the rearview mirror, and tribes figuring out how to move giant rocks without forklifts. This was the late Neolithic, and the people of the British Isles had just discovered an exciting new hobby, building massive monuments out of stone, then standing around them in what we assume were extremely solemn rituals, or the prehistoric version of music festivals. Stonehenge didn't appear all at once. First came earthworks, ditches and timber posts, basically the IKEA instructions of monument building. Over centuries the circle evolved. But one thing became increasingly clear: the people who built this weren't just stacking rocks, they were aligning them with the sky. Enter the avenue, a long ceremonial pathway connecting Stonehenge to the River Avon. Think of it as a prehistoric red carpet. The heel stone stood right at the end of it, like the velvet rope outside a very exclusive club where the doorman is 20 tons of sarsen. And that's important because this wasn't just any stone, it marked something, a threshold, a beginning, possibly even a countdown to the biggest solar show of the year. Politically, we don't know much. These were decentralized communities, not kingdoms, but spiritually, these people were clearly into big gestures. Aligning stones with the solstice took planning, teamwork, and a deep obsession with the cosmos. In short, before calendars, clocks, or Google reminders, the heel stone may have been the original "you are here" marker for something much, much bigger. Let's zoom in on one specific date, around June 21st, roughly 2500 BCE, the summer solstice, the longest day of the year. While most of us mark it by complaining about heat waves and air conditioning bills, Neolithic Britons had bigger things in mind, like engineering a solar alignment that would last for millennia. At dawn on this sacred morning, the sun would rise in perfect line with the heel stone, casting its rays straight through the entrance of Stonehenge. It's like the climax of a cosmic concert, sunlight, cueing the drama as it pierces the monument's heart. But this wasn't accidental. That alignment was so precise, it's like the builders had a ruler the size of a football field and an astronomer's calendar carved into their brains. So how did the heel stone get there? The stone itself is massive, about 35 tons and 16 feet tall. It's made of sarsen, a super hard sandstone not native to the site. That means it had to be transported from at least 25 miles away. And no, they didn't just roll it downhill. This was a full Neolithic production, likely involving sledges, log rollers, and dozens, maybe hundreds of people hauling, chanting, and possibly arguing over whose turn it was to push. Once it arrived, it was carefully placed at the end of the avenue, intentionally tilted, not by accident. Some scholars argue the lean mirrors the sun's rise over the horizon. Others say it just looks cooler that way. Either way, it became the marker stone, the first thing pilgrims would see as they approached. Think of it like a neon sign reading, "Welcome to Stonehenge, please remove sandals." And the timing? Impeccable. On the solstice morning, as the sun peeked over the horizon, it would rise just to the left of the heel stone. Spectators standing within the monument would see sunlight streaming down the avenue, guided by that lone rock. In an age without metal tools or written records, that level of astronomical choreography is frankly insane. But this wasn't just about science, it was spiritual, social, and probably political too. Solstices were moments of renewal and rebirth. The heel stone's role was to focus the moment, to take something as abstract as the sun is at its highest and make it visual, emotional, even theatrical. There are even signs that gatherings at Stonehenge were like ancient mega-festivals. Animal bones show people feasted there. Some traveled hundreds of miles. Maybe they came for rituals, or maybe they came because sunrise through a stone circle is just objectively cool. The heel stone was their sunrise trigger, their cosmic curtain raiser, and then there's the name heel stone. That one's a bit of medieval mischief. Folklore tells of the devil throwing the stone at a priest who dared to spy on his work. It healed over and stuck in the ground. So yes, in a roundabout way, the heel stone has a backstory involving the Prince of Darkness playing a prehistoric game of dodgeball. More practically, the heel stone is part of a broader theory that Stonehenge wasn't a standalone structure, but one node in a sacred landscape. The sun's path, the river Avon, the avenue, the stone, all may have formed a kind of spiritual GPS for the living and the dead. And the heel stone, that was the pin drop, the axis, the start of the journey. So next time you see it leaning awkwardly like it's had one too many at the Solstice party, remember, it's not just a rock, it's a 4000-year-old light switch built by people who thought on a cosmic scale and carved their calendars in stone. Fast forward a few millennia, and the heel stone is still standing, though it's now flanked by fences, surrounded by selfie sticks, and occasionally misidentified as that one stone that fell over. But don't let modern indifference fool you. This ancient slab has survived wars, weather, agriculture, and Victorian archaeologists with shovels and enthusiasm, but questionable accuracy. Its alignment with the summer solstice remains one of the clearest pieces of evidence that Stonehenge was more than just a pile of stones. It was a functioning observatory, a sacred calendar, and maybe even the stage for prehistoric pageantry. Today it draws druids, New Age mystics, historians, and confused tourists who expected something taller. Archaeologists still debate whether it was part of a pair, whether it leaned originally, or whether it marks the start of some now lost ceremonial procession. But one thing is clear: the heel stone is a survivor. From celestial alignments to cultural reinventions, it continues to anchor humanity's relationship with the cosmos, silently, stubbornly, and always slightly off-kilter. So, what is the heel stone really? A glorified doorstop, a solar GPS, a Neolithic billboard that says you've arrived at the center of the universe? Turns out maybe all of the above. For something so silent, it speaks volumes about humanity's need to make sense of the sky, to gather, to ritualize, and to leave something permanent. In a world without compasses, clocks, or cloud backups, they carved meaning into stone and aligned it with the heavens. And somehow it still works. Next time you catch a sunrise, think of the heel stone. It doesn't beep or blink, it doesn't need batteries, it just stands there watching the sun, doing its job for 4,500 years, no updates required. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed time traveling with rocks and solstices, hit that like button and subscribe for more ancient mysteries, because history is way cooler when the stones do the talking.